So there's been much debate on the right about what happened in the 2022 midterms and where can the Republican Party go from here. Well, I made several videos discussing some of the theories. One was Roe versus Wade, and I kind of proved that you look at when voters decided their vote, there really wasn't any correlation between those that decided after Roe or versus before Roe. They were basically the same. Another theory, which I've been proposing, was a lot of these candidates were not getting the funding they needed, which is true. We saw a correlation between candidates that got severely outspent and losing. But a theory came out by somebody on Twitter that I know, and I've been looking at it, and I realized something. The biggest reason for the underperformance was this. Just let's look at this. 2020 presidential vote preference. And again, exit polling data, it can be iffy. But look at this. The 2022 electorate was Biden +4. For record, the 2022 presidential election, 2020 presidential election, was around Biden +4. So it's the same electorate. In fact, when you only count those that voted in 2020, it's more like a Biden +5 electorate. So not only did the electorate not change from 2020 to 2022, it may have gotten even more Biden-friendly. And if you don't know, historically, midterm elections, they have a lot of the incumbent voters, voters that voted for the president, they tend not to vote. While the opposing party, they tend to vote at higher rates. This time around, it didn't happen. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, this proves that we should not be appealing to white working class voters. Instead, we need to focus on the suburban voter. Well, guess what, everybody? No. Stop this crap of the suburbs. You know my one piece of evidence I will show you that we cannot keep trying to appeal to these suburban voters? Go to Wisconsin. Ron Johnson's one of the strongest candidates we got in Wisconsin. He usually gets dictator margins in Waukesha, Ozaukee, etc. Look at this. Against a lunatic in Mandela Barnes, a black nationalist, Barnes got 37% of the vote in Waukesha. One of the weakest Democrat candidates in the country got 37%. What does that tell you about these suburbs? People need to understand, these suburbs aren't the same as they were 10 years ago, let alone even 6 years ago. They're not the same places. Now, Waukesha is a bit different, but when you look at the township map, you look at where the votes came in from town, by township, you had Waukesha City, Brookfield, etc. You realize something. Johnson did about the same in Brookfield, Waukesha itself, etc. The more, what people consider to be more suburban parts of Waukesha. He did about the same as he did in 2016. The problem? The rural precincts, their turnout collapsed. It collapsed beyond belief. It collapsed like 30% in some areas. Like, look, this is what people need to understand about some of these suburban counties. Yes, like Waukesha. There is a chunk of it that is what you would call a suburb, but it's not as suburban as Philly. But you get the point. These counties, however, they still got rural working class voters. In fact, working class voters in general. Do people not think that working class voters exist in urban areas? There's a ton of them. Sure, they don't vote as Republican, but that proves my point. There's a lot of these working class voters in places like Waukesha, places like Ozaukee, which percentage-wise, not as much as, place like Monroe County. Sure, but there's still a large working class base the Republicans can appeal to in these counties. You cannot keep trying to appeal to rural working class voters, but ignore a lot of working class voters that are white. I'm being specific about white working class voters. They live in a place like Milwaukee. They just don't vote, or they vote Democrat. That's a problem the Republicans have to deal with. And Republicans, they did decent with these college-educated voters. And look at this. They got 47% with white voters' college degree. That's slightly better than Trump. And they did a bit better than Trump with white voters no degree. But here's the catch. The percent of voters that are white voters with no degree, it went down dramatically from 2020. So realistically, they didn't do much better with white working class voters because the turnout decreased dramatically with these voters. Look, I understand not every freaking county in the country is white working class. I'm not saying Orange County is white working class area. But there's a clear correlation with what we saw. Look at Pennsylvania. What do you think happened here? Do you think was MAGA amendment was too conservative? Really? If that's your reasoning for these swings in Armstrong County, look at this. Oz got 19,000 votes. We'll just look at net votes. Look what Trump got. 27,000 votes. Fetterman got less too, but only 500. That's a net of 8,500 votes for Oz that just did not turn out whatsoever. It's clear, based on this swing map, Republicans had a problem turning out working class voters. And you notice, areas that are suburban, more urban, etc., across the board, they swung the least Democrat. They just did, because Republicans poured ungodly amounts of resources into Philly, into Chester, into Delaware, but focusing on the wrong voters. And sure, they did slightly better than Trump comparatively in Chester, but it doesn't matter when you collapse beyond belief in the rest of the state. It's clear Republicans had a turnout problem. You do not explain an almost 8,000 vote difference in a county that has what? 40,000 votes just from Fetterman doing better with voters? Bullshit. And let's just look at, I'm curious. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Let's look at the 2020 electorate, right? Look at this. Biden +3. Biden won this state, quote unquote, by a point in 2020. So the electorate became more Biden friendly. What does that tell you? Republicans need to stop doing this horse shit of, we just need suburban voters, instead of focusing on the voters that are easier to gain for Republicans than the voters in Montgomery County. Guys, these voters in places like Montgomery, Delaware, there are a lot of Republicans in these counties. But these are the type of Republicans, they see an ad on TV that calls, Tim Michaels, for example. I know Pennsylvania doesn't have Michaels, but, Wisconsin, Ozapi is the best example. There's these Republican voters. They see an ad on TV that has Tim Michaels is a meanie poopy head. And these voters that are, quote unquote, Republicans, flip on the Republican Party and vote Democrat. These are the type of voters that live in some of these areas. It sucks, but we gotta just deal with it at this point. We have to accept a lot of these voters that have been trending Democrat, they're not coming back. We need to focus on these pinkish red counties, places like Grant County, places like Armstrong, places like Mahoning County. That's how Republicans can win a lot of these states back. There's no reason for Mehmet Oz, who the only reason people supported him, and I supported him for economic and healthcare reasons, but a lot of people were talking about how great Oz was going to do in Chester, Montgomery, etc. Comparatively, he did do better in these counties. But look at the rest of the state. He lost by 5 to a guy that can't speak properly. These voters in the suburbs, they're not coming back. We got to accept it. They're never voting Republican again. And I can already see people saying, oh, well, look at what happened in Florida. Well, this proves my point and does give valid arguments of those that say DeSantis is a strong candidate. 2020 vote preference. Look at this. 52% Trump, 41% Biden. Trump won Florida by around 3.5 points. So this is an 8-point shift in the electorate. And there are many reasons for this. DeSantis is a very popular governor. Let's see DeSantis's approval. Look at this. 59% approval rating in the state of Florida. All right? He's a popular guy. At the same time, he was able to get the Trump base out because a lot of them, they just love the guy. But also, something many people are failing to understand. A lot of these Republican voters, they've been moving out of Pennsylvania, out of Wisconsin, etc., and piling into states like Florida. That's what happened in Florida, and that's a big reason for DeSantis' massive victory. I'm not saying that's everything, but he did get the base out, and look what happened. The reason, like Marco Rubio, I'm just using Rubio as an example. Rubio did basically the same. I mean, look at some of these swings. The reason a lot of these swings happened was because they got the base out. Not because they appealed to, the white suburban college-educated mom that never voted Republican in her life. No, they got the base out, and a lot of the other voters, they just like DeSantis. That's why the Florida GOP, they won landslide after landslide in 2022. They were one of the only states in the country that got the base out. Nevada, also, they kind of got the base out. I mean, they got the base out in Clark. They did good in Story, etc. And quite frankly, Laxalt would have won if some of these rural voters, they turned out higher than expected. That's how close we were to winning Nevada. They nearly got the base out completely, but they still fell short. This is my point. We need to get a lot of these working class Trump voters to vote. And it's not by, voting for some garbage spending bill. Do people not understand these voters are unlike Democrats? If you screw them over, they're going to screw you over back. Oh, you voted for amnesty? Go F yourself. I'm not voting. That's the type of voter we're dealing with. And this is my point. They hold their candidates accountable. If they suck, they're going to vote them out or just not vote. That's why we need to have strong leadership. Focus on message. Focus on issues that matter. Not Democrats are the real homophobes. Focus on issues that matter to these voters. Grocery prices. The fact their kids are being taught to hate themselves in schools, etc. It's not complicated to get these voters out. We just need to have a good message on economics and cultural issues. That's how Republicans can win the future. And one of the biggest reasons why Republicans underperformed in most states, they flat out did not get their base out. You could say what you want about Trump. How could you blame that on Trump? How? He endorsed the candidates. If they couldn't get Trump's base out, do you really think Karen Taylor Robson was going to get Trump's base out? Do you really think that? They just felt behind. They felt like they were getting screwed over and a little bit overconfident. I do admit some areas there was probably a bit of confidence that, I don't need to vote. But that's a problem. A lot of these voters, they felt betrayed. A chunk of them felt, why should I even vote? We're going to win in a landslide anyways. I'm just going to stay home. I may not even vote. That's the problem that we had in 2022. One of the biggest reasons for the underperformance. I hope people understand. This, I think, is enough proof that we need to get a coherent working class message. Get these voters to the polls no matter the cost. I'm sick and tired of the suburban shilling that we've been doing for the past 2 years. It's not working. It has not worked. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the Twitter account in the description down below, and join the channel today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Godspeed to all of you.